Welcome to Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. In this podcast, I chat to athletes, coaches, and industry professionals about their sporting journey and the lessons they've learned along the way. Guests range from Olympians to the everyday lover of sport, but the message stays the same. There is so much more to sport than what meets the eye. Make sure you hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts or follow on Spotify so you don't miss the release of each new episode. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. I'd love to hear from you. Today, I've got a solo episode for you. I wanted to briefly delve into how studying sport changed the way I thought about it. Let's start in high school. I was not a sporty kid. I came from a family where playing sport was not a priority. Don't get me wrong, being physically active and healthy was a priority in our house. However, the focus wasn't on sport. Both my sister and I learnt how to swim whilst in primary school, but that was the extent of those early years of participation. Mum used to tell the story that when she was in school, she used to clean out the sports teacher's office to get out having to participate in her sports class. Mind you, Mum's sports class involved playing hockey outdoors in Northern Ireland in a skirt. With Northern Ireland's cooler climate, I don't really blame her for that one. If you listened to Season 2, Episodes 5 and 6 with my high school sports teacher, Nige Knighton, you'd know that I started to follow suit. I could swim, but when it came to doing other sports, my hand-eye coordination made me feel very inadequate. I finished a Learn to Swim program and was lucky enough that my mum, who is not a lover of sport, was willing to get up at 5 a.m. and drive me to squad training. This is where my love of sport started. Whilst all this was happening, I was being exposed to a different side of sport, the role of a coach, the teacher, the facilitator. I was also being taught that sport didn't have to be just the mainstream cricket, footy, or netball that was popular in our area. It could be something else. I set my sights at the top, and during this time, my focus was high performance. The dream was to be an Olympic swimming coach. I started my Bachelor of Sport Development in 2014, and the plan was to follow the pathways to become an elite swimming coach. I knew the courses I needed to do, the qualification standards of being eligible to do each new course, and I started along that pathway. In the first semester of uni, I was introduced to the concept of sport development. Yes, I was doing a degree without fully knowing the concept and what it was. Sport development is basically the pathways and structures in place for someone to take part in their chosen sport. Australia basically follows the pathway of social, club, regional, state, national, and then international. Most sporting organisations do this or some version of this as their participation or competition pathway. None of this was news to me. I was a competitive swimmer. It was just the same as competition structures. I also learned that there was a lot of behind the scenes work that's done in sport to ensure that all sorts of things can run, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's your local footy match. The volunteers are often unpaid but do a lot of the behind the scenes work. We are also introduced to the concept of sport for development. This is where sport is used as a vehicle to achieve developmental outcomes such as health, social and cohesion, gender equality, and disability inclusion. The World Health Organization acknowledges sport as an enabler to achieve the Sustainable Developmental Goals. These goals outline how sport and physical activity have multiple health, social, and economic benefits. My Year 12 Health and Human Development teacher will be proud that I'm still knowing these goals. During my degree, I was fortunate enough to have Dr. Julia Walsh, whose philosophy was developing the whole person inside and outside of the sporting arena. If you want to hear about Julia's journey, check out my episode with her, Season 1, Episode 2. With this mix, my philosophy of sport started to change. As a teenager, I really wanted to be involved in the high performance side of things. I wanted to help elite athletes achieve their goals and get to the Olympics. However, after studying it, I started to think, sport can be used as such a big tool to change the world. Through learning and being exposed to this wonderful world of sport, my eyes have been opened. Sport not only allows individuals to grow and develop, whether they be Olympians or your local footy player, but it is also such a powerful tool to develop communities to possibly make a larger impact in the world. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Sport with Fiona Stewart. This is a completely independent podcast that has been created to share the journey and lessons of top-level sporting professionals, but also your everyday lover of sport. If you liked this podcast, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a review and share it with someone who you think would also enjoy it. Until next time.